I was in a 1A Youth and Education Committee meeting, and let me tell you, it is so cool that they have a Youth and Education Committee.
That's an acceptable excuse for your tardiness. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I did not mean to start at 7:35. I call this meeting to order at 7:35. Secretary Fayed, I don't know if you really need to do the formalities if you're tracking there already.
We can do it real quick. Barrio,
Here,
Holden,
present. Here.
Trindade Dramo,
Present.
Kenzik. He is present.
Okay.
Let the record show he's present. Commissioner Fay is here. Chair Healing.
Here.
Great.
I apologize. I'm present.
All right,
Thank you.
fantastic. And then we've got Commissioner Harris, not present. Lemon Strauss, not present. Sycamore, is not present, and Hanrahan. But with 5 of 9 commissioners and 1 of 2 chairs, we are set to go. Look at that, just sneaking in under the wire. Commissioner Hanrahan, are you present?
Present.
Fabulous. We went to 6.
Thank you very much. We've got a quorum. We will move right along. I'm going to say right at the outset, this is going to be a terribly long meeting because I have the luck of when I say it's going to be a short meeting, it's very long. So tonight's going to be a very long meeting.
Good.
Just a couple quick announcements from me. In the absence of an outreach coordinator, I am now writing the newsletter, which brings me great joy. Although I would like to offload that responsibility soon. That said, if you have upcoming engagements in your commissioner capacity, I do remind you, please let me know if they're public and you would like to put them on the calendar on the website with the little gold diamond signifying a public event. And I could put them in the newsletter as well. Commissioner Holden, do you have something? You looked eager.
No.
All right.
That's jet lag.
Wow.
Where
Well,
am I?
this is the time in the meeting when I encourage you to open your calendars while I'm talking and look ahead for the next couple of weeks. And if you see a meeting coming up that you think we should let constituents know about, for example, to do with strategic bikeways or murals or I don't know, whatever else, please let me know. I don't think we have anything for the community events section of the newsletter going out after next week. So please find me some content if you would. And apropos, we are going to open the hiring process for an outreach consultant. This is to fill Rice's position, of course. We're making a couple small changes to the job description, which Secretary Fay and I will have ready before the meeting on February 5th so that we can announce it to the community and we can ask all of you and them to circulate to your networks and find a suitable candidate. So look forward to that. That is that for announcements. In terms of the agenda for next week, I will triple check, but we are confirmed to have Director Musali as our guest speaker. Of particular interest, I think, Stephen, remind me, when is their oversight hearing? Is it the same day?
Yes, it is on the 10th, I believe.
Oh, okay, good. So we'll have a chance to interact with him before. I know several of our ABCR committee members are intending to go testify at the oversight hearing in council for ABCA. We can surface some of those issues we have with ABCA. I know a lot of them are about technology, et cetera, with Director Musali. I'm sure a couple interesting cases will come up that we're dealing with right now. We have asked him for advice in the past, which has been very helpful. And I know that we do want to talk about the situation with Rush. That's why we invited him specifically, was to talk about their internal screening in terms of applicants for licenses who have adverse history, et cetera. That'll be interesting. We have no anticipated guests for the district agencies section, which is very nice. And just as an FYI, for March, we are anticipating the guest speaker will be the Board of Elections. I believe that they are bringing voting equipment with them to do demonstrations of ranked choice voting. And we will have DDOT in the district agencies section to talk about the first year of statistics on the performance parking zone, which has been much and widely anticipated. So happy to be scheduling them in. That March 5th meeting, by the way, will be hybrid. So we will be doing an in-person meeting at the Josephine Butler Park Center once again. They played host to us a few months ago. Excuse me, I think it went quite well. It's especially nice if, in fact, the BOE is bringing voting equipment because we can set that up in a sort of one of the separate drawing rooms nearby the meeting room. So commissioners and members of the public can hopefully visit before our meeting and even just pop out a couple at a time during the meeting if you want to go see the sample ballots and ask questions about our new voting system. Mark your calendars. The election of committee chairs is something that we have to take care of next week's monthly meeting. We do have one applicant for each committee chair position, which is wonderful. Many of you are intending to return as committee chairs. I appreciate that very deeply. All commissioners, per our SOPs, were sent copies of all of the applications yesterday or the day before. The executive committee will also review the submissions and present nominations. Once again, there's only one applicant per position, so it should be pretty straightforward matter. If you have any questions, please let me know. And please do review everyone's applications in advance. And you're, of course, welcome to ask questions when we make the nominations and enter election procedure. Any questions so far? Okay. Two final things from me, and I'm going to open the floor a little bit here if anybody wants to chime in. I am preparing two resolutions for next week's meeting. The first, in partnership with Commissioner Hanrahan, is going to be a resolution on process review for the ABCR committee. There are a couple issues that we've been trying to find ways to resolve and shift some timelines and sort of change our engagement with applicants at the ABCR committee. We had thought for a while that we would set up a separate task force to handle this, but we've scrapped that idea. This is something that ABCR can handle itself. Stephen is plugged into this, but I do want the commission to ask the committee formally to present suggestions for how it can reshape some of its processes and also to offer possibly amendments to our SOPs if they want to codify some of those for the future. So I'll be working with Commissioner Hanrahan to craft that language, but if anyone has any input, I'm all ears. We're certainly taking some of the feedback that we've had from applicants in the past about parts of the process that they thought were rushed or didn't feel fair. We're going to try to turn that into some language to avoid that in the future. Second resolution I'm working on will be the statement of work that establishes a task force on the comprehensive plan. This is still very much in draft form, so also open to feedback. I think at its most basic level, this is just going to be a task force that can meet a little more frequently than monthly, since the comp plan is a pretty meaty topic to take on. And of course, it straddles the jurisdiction of three committees. That's CPD, Economic Development, and Transportation, of course. So we wanted to create a forum for members from those committees and other interested commissioners and community members to sit down a little more frequently, a little more casually, spanning the work of those three committees. So I will be finishing the language for that charging document. Again, if you have input as to how wide or narrow the scope of that body should be, I'm happy to take it now, take it in between now and next week. Commissioner Fay.
And I just wanted to share one of the practical problems that we were trying to solve as Miguel and I were brainstorming about this joint task force. We'd invited economic development. It invited the Office of Planning to come and do a presentation on the comp plan. We'd kind of requested a series of kind of data points and information and update. They were very happy to schedule something. And then Chair Brandt had said, gosh, I really wanted to have them come to ZPD. And we said enough, right? We need to kind of figure out a way that we can have all the folks that want to be involved in the comp planning process come together, get access to the same information, share different perspectives. There's a zoning component, there's a transportation component, there's a economic component, and then also to make sure that the commissioners all had the opportunity to participate directly in this as well. So it's meant to create better access, and I think with the structure of a 90-day task force, there's going to be a little extra meeting time, but the goal is to kind of keep it very focused, very open, and to make sure that the folks that want to be involved are able to be involved, and make sure that the voice of the community finds its way into the comp plan through our recommendations.
That's about the size of it. As a as a reminder, I don't know what's going on with me today. Sorry. As a reminder, task forces necessarily can only exist for 3 months. So, but they can be reauthorized. Although I think, given the comp plan timeline, it's probably a good idea if we kick it off the first week of February, March, April, May would be its report out to the commission, and then the commission can take whatever action after that is necessary. I think that dovetails pretty well with um, the phase that the comp plan planning will be in.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay. I have nothing from the executive committee. Committees otherwise, if you haven't submitted the form, the magical form, please do it today. Matt and I have to finalize the agenda packet tomorrow morning. So if you haven't submitted your minutes and what you would like printed on the agenda for your committee report, please send it in. Bonus points if you already have high-level bullet points for your upcoming committee meeting, please send.
Bonus points if Matthew Holden, you've already sent in all of the supporting documentation as well.
Typical. You know?
I have 2 letters I still need to draft, so that's not true.
Oh, right.
Showing off now.
Fine. There should be more of a competition, though. It's really boring that Matthew just wins every month. Alrighty. Other new business items. We will have, at long last, once again, Commissioner Barrio's comprehensive plan resolution. I believe he's circulating it, or maybe already did. Sorry, I'm never sure who's copied on emails, but it's
I think I copied everybody this time, so
Thank you.
everyone should have it.
It's in near final form. I appreciate the amount of engagement that has gone into this. I'm excited to see it again. I'm really glad that we took the time earlier this month, to have a proper debate about it. That was worth doing. I know several of us have been meeting on and off on the side. This is quite a long time coming. I really am incredibly grateful. I think we showed what a legislative quote unquote process should look like. It's been also it's a complex topic. It pulls on a lot, but I think the debate has been conducted thoughtfully and respectfully. A lot of people involved, multiple committees, so I really am happy to see it come back to the floor. I don't know if you want to say anything else about it, Commissioner Barrio. I don't think we have to go into great detail. Everyone's familiar with the contours.
No, I mean, I think the only thing I wanted to say is I'm still available to chat if anybody has questions or wants to talk. And I think you touched on this earlier with like a, potential comprehensive plan task force, but you know, this is one resolution, and I hope that we'll do a lot more work on the comp plan and on housing in the future. So this is by no means sort of the end of the discussion. And, regardless of how the vote goes, I'm still very much looking forward to working with everybody on, comp plan efforts going forward. So yeah, thank you for everyone's engagement. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions.
Commissioner Fay, did you want to discuss anything?
We can do it as part of the committee.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. In terms of committees, let's hear from Stephen, please, to make sure we have all our documents in order. I saw there was some last minute email traffic today. As far as I'm aware, the only 4 matters we have to concern ourselves with. Well, the first 3 are like actual documents to finalize, I believe, or close to. ACE, Flash, and Bunker. Do you want to run us through those really quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of like in the thick of it with like some of like the real offenders or folks that have some serious concern here, where we're at protest hearing or about to go to protest hearing. So I think, for a couple of them, I think, Bunker, I think we're basically done with that. Flash, probably not going to go to protest hearing, but I think still fleshing out kind of the little nitty gritty details of the settlement agreement. Ace Lounge, I just propose actually like another, like maybe a bit of a revisit to the settlement agreement, to try and address some of the noise concerns, and just kind of try to flesh those out more. But luckily we have continuances that were granted or seems like we're getting them granted. So
Both were granted.
granted. So time is on our side. We're just, working through it. We got about like, the 4 or 5 kind of big ones, then Thirst, of course. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it.
Can I give an editorial real quick?
Please.
Yeah, I mean, I think from an Ace and Flash perspective, there's two things that I think are on my mind. One is that the holidays really slowed us down. And I don't know if ABCA took that into consideration when calendaring, but it felt like all of a sudden we went from mediation to like status hearing in a matter of like days. So I think we've bought ourselves a little bit of breathing room, which is really helpful. The second is that, and I really appreciate the thoughtfulness and the partnership of Commissioner Hanrahan. We are trying really hard to adopt a framework to navigate noise complaints that we're hopeful lets the business operator continue to operate their establishment the way that they, are wanting to be able to kind of entertain their patrons, but also at the same time minimize the impact to the community around them. One, basic example is that we've done sound tests where, the doors are propped open and it's actually miserable. And then you do the same sound test with the doors closed and it's great. And you open the door and you close the door and it's great and it's miserable and it's good again. And so we're trying to navigate that because we feel like that these kind of businesses and the community should be able to coexist. And so it's just taking a little bit of time for us to get the elements and the language and the discussions with the business owners right. And I just wanted to say that so that, from a community perspective, I want folks to know that we're really wrestling with this and working at it. And I feel like Stephen is taking us through a process that is really robust and I think reflects a lot of thoughtfulness.
Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I appreciate your support. We're in the thick of it here, and it's so much fun.
And then, I mean, I sit sort of downstream of this, working with Commissioner Kensick and Commissioner Hanrahan on Thirst. And you guys are a bit farther ahead on these, and we're learning in real time from how those are going. So thank you for blazing a bit of a trail there. Commissioner, can we move on to Thirst? Are we okay with the first three?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Kensick, do you want to maybe provide a little status update on Thirst?
Yeah, I mean, and the owners actually are being, like I said last meeting, very friendly. They actually took a call with me the other day, both Sean and Brandon, and we had some text back and forth. They have some reservation, which I had sent back to you guys, and I mean I get the reservation, but I did explain that we've done this with other clubs. They were just like, with the whole thing outside. If you stay here and say Commissioner Hanahan goes outside and there's construction or people talking or cars driving by or honking horns, he goes, that's all going to make, the decibel level go higher. And I'm like, well, no, we would obviously do it at times when it's quiet. He's like, well, that's the thing. It's never quiet outside. So I said, okay, well, let me look into this a little bit more and I will get back to you. I have an email drafted to them, because they did actually, I said, can you at least please send me your email addresses, which they did. And like I said, they were both very cordial. But when I did ask about, having us go there and having possibly a couple of the neighbors walk with us, they just didn't think that was going to be a fair process to them, that us going on the outside with, whatever decibel reader we use would be fair to them. That's kind of the gist. So I still plan on sending the email, but I wanted to bring it up tonight to kind of hear what the other commissioners had to say or thought. I know that Chair Hanner and Committee Chair Hanner has been great. Commissioner Hanner has been great, and so have you, Chair. So and he gave me direction. I just want to make sure the other commissioners feel comfortable with it. Me putting this in writing to him that, hey, it's still like to come by. I just think that's going to be the next thing they're going to come back with, and they might even do it via email, but say that and I have it via text that they think that it's going to be there's going to be other noise reasons as to making the decibel readings louder. So I mean, if we go into someone's house, like maybe Annie from Thirst might be willing to offer that. I know she's subletting it out right now, but that might be something, but again, to their point, in fairness, I mean, there is constantly noise there, whether it be construction or garbage being picked up or whatever else. So I did say that, we would work around their schedule, obviously during non-operating hours. I said I'd make time for them. I don't care if it's during my work hours, we would make time for them. I made it, and they were appreciative of it. And like I said, they weren't rude. They were very open. Um, but they did lay that out there that they just have concerns. So I think that's going to be the next area where even if we do what we do and we go over there, that they're going to push back and say that, well, due to outside environmental noises, this impacted the reading and so and so. So that's where I'm at right now with them. Since that last communication via phone and text and everything, I've not sent the email because of that, but it's ready to go, meaning I could hit send right now. I just kind of want to hear what you guys all think before I do that, because I think it's going to be just more pushback. And I know we delayed the date. Thank you, Commissioner Hanner, for doing that. But I don't know if even by that date, if this is going to be a resolved issue, and as for the group, meeting with the group themselves, I've offered, whether it be my home or via Zoom, which you've offered, and reached out to Miss Karen. I know she was on vacation, but setting up a Zoom link. I have to check the last couple of days at Howard with the snow removal and everything else. It's been a little chaotic at best. But I haven't seen it if they responded. I know Arlene called me about a different issue today, but she didn't bring that up. But she's not even one of the neighbors that are complaining about that. So they haven't, from what I'm aware, responded to say, yes, this is a lead. These are the 3 additional people. Because I did kind of shrink their saying to them, listen, this is it. Get your last round of people together that you need. Make sure everyone's present. Make sure we all set on a date and time. So this is it. I'm not going to continue this where another person pops up next week and another person the following week. Like, this is where they get a chance to put their ducks in a row, and then we'll take care of it. But I have not seen the email correspondence back from Benjamin or anyone else for that
Yeah.
matter.
I guess I'm assuming they're going to wait and see what day it is, and then they'll figure out who's home, if it's during the day or at night or whatever. I imagine. Um, okay. Is there anything else, Stephen, Matt, that I don't know, best practices you want to pass along, or anything we need to think about?
Yeah. I mean, I think these are good. I think this is the good next step to take. I think it's good to email them so that everyone's kind of following along with what's happening, and it's kind of hard that we have this group of 5 that's also protesting. And so I think if we have it on email, then we can kind of follow along with what's being agreed to and what we're all kind of following the same conversation. So I think that would be helpful to do, Alan. I mean, unfortunately, I think right now the biggest thing is like the snow, because like if they have like this roof deck that like opens and closes and it's like a big source of the noise, if there's like a sheet of ice on top of it, that might be a factor. But that's out of our control. I think just trying to get something scheduled and see how it goes is like the best we can do right now. I found these to be kind of enlightening in terms of like a site visit, and kind of seeing the noise regarding like the decibel reading regarding like the construction, like, or traffic. Like if we're hearing traffic, that means we're not hearing the music. So it's kind of like a good thing to be hearing traffic or construction, because it means the music isn't that loud to detract from the normal ambient noise outside. So yeah. But yeah, I think that we should definitely go ahead with this and try and make it happen, maybe with sometime within the next 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, we asked for a 2-week continuance, and they gave us a 6-week continuance. So let's not take
Yeah.
that
I
entire
was just trying to
time.
find the date. Yeah, is it March now? Oh wow.
They,
Okay.
they said March 11th. Maybe we want to clarify that she didn't mean Feb. That was really long.
That one might
Yeah,
be.
no,
Yeah, maybe we should clarify.
I can call her tomorrow, but I did think she meant March, which I thought was fair, because to Commissioner Hannaran's point, the snow and the ice, especially because it's not just really fluffy snow, it's actually ice on top of it, which is like a glacier. So dealing with this crap all week, it really is going to hold in the sound, so that it might be good. Actually, we'll get the email out tonight. And then say that when the conditions clear up a little bit on your roof deck, so we can get a true test. Because what's going to happen is then we set that up and we go over there and there is ice on it. Then we're going to get opposition from the parties that are protesting, saying, "Well, we went over there with a sheet of ice," and we want to do it once and we want to do it correct. So I'll put something in the writing that when the climate warms up a little bit and we have where we can actually hear through the glass. Versus it going through a couple layers of snow and ice, that'll be the best time, and then from there we'll go. But I will say, on a positive, I like that Thirst. Both got on the phone with me. They accepted the call. They were very patient and friendly, which is nice. And I have hopes, and we'll continue forward. So I'll get the email out tonight, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Do you want to set a target date just so we can hold it, hoping that the weather gets warm and we can just keep checking in like
Well,
2 weeks
well,
from now?
I think that I was thinking how my email's phrased. I'm trying to be very, friendly to both parties, saying to Thirst that we're willing to work around your schedule. We'd like to do this within a 2 week time frame. That's what I originally have in my current email. But we want to do what's best for you. So I wasn't trying to put a set boundary on them per se, because they are also notified that it was the continuance until March 11th, and they were very quick to
Sure.
respond that they were fine with it. But I also want them to make them honestly feel like we're being very fair about this process, and we're not trying to rush them or anything. They were, I can hear in their voices they were a little reluctant on us coming out. To be frank, nothing against the commission. I just think that the unknown, like anything else, if you're a club owner. So I'm sure that's a little bit of reason of a little concern, and then they brought up those points. But I can put, if you want me to leave it as 2 weeks, we'd like to schedule something within the next 2 weeks. Let me and leave it like that, so
Yeah,
it's
that
not
sounds good.
forceful. Okay, all right, sounds
Yep.
good.
Yeah. Quick question. We can take a lot of this offline, but since we're all here, I don't know, Alan, do you remember from the last time you went into Thirst? I don't remember seeing that like decibel meter with the big display that a lot of clubs have next to the DJ station. Is that
No,
something that they use?
Chair, no, I haven't heard of that, and I asked them about that on the call. They haven't to date had that. That's something maybe we can suggest to them.
Yeah. And they don't have
And
they haven't mentioned any kind of like limiter or anything like that other establishments use, as far as I remember.
no, and you're right. And then I mean, I don't go there that often, personally, so I don't know. Like, I've never actually gone up there. I've only gone up there with you last time, so I don't know if they've done in the last month or 2 months. But I would think they would have brought that up. They were very vague in the mediation, saying they've done some upgrades. And when I asked if they'd be willing to show some receipts, to a media, like whether it be you or it doesn't, not me personally, but whatever. They were, again, they were very little reluctant on it, because I don't know what they've done. But one of the things that we did talk about was adding a door in the back by their kitchen, because it's currently wide open. So that also right there will definitely
Hmm.
dampen. It's a pain a little bit to have a swinging door or whatever, but that right there will dampen some sound, at least at the back door when they open to take their garbage out, or whatever it may be. But I don't recall or them ever saying during the mediation or anything about having anything near the booth or by the
Yeah.
booth on the second floor.
I guess I'm concerned, and last question I think here, but while we have Matt and Stephen around, if there's no limiter or the that sort of analog display thing, or whatever, of the decibel meter, how do we establish that they're playing the music at a realistic volume comparable to what they do on a normal night, right? I mean, I guess we just take their word that that's the volume that they normally play at. I mean, there's no objective, it's not measurable, right? That's just, I guess, a subjective thing where you stand inside and they say this is how loud we let the DJ play.
I think there's a couple of layers, right? Right. So one of the things that we have learned through our different site visits is that the folks who are really managing sound and music levels say that between 103 and 105 decibels is optimal
Right.
for a club experience. The second is experiential, where you and I went to a club. Unfortunately, none of this was for fun. It was all for like settlement agreements. We
That's
went
on
to,
you.
it's true. You and I went to a club. Their target was 97. Stephen and I went to a club. It was a
Mm.
97. We went to another club. It was 99. And so I think there's a kind of an experiential thing where we're saying, okay, 103 to 105, and then around 97 to 100 seems reasonable. The third is just kind of a reasonability test where Stephen and I were in a closed space listening to 100 decibel music, and like our ears were ringing for 5 minutes, and we're like, okay, this has got to be as loud as they're playing it normally. Um, so I think that kind of target seems like, from just what we've learned from folks, is a reasonable target. If there's no decibel reader, then how is the DJ actually paying attention to what the decibels are? And so I think that's one of the things that we're starting to write into these more often, is that they need to have a decibel reader. They need to have an established limit. They need to be managing to it. I don't think we've gotten to the point where we've written anything about limiters, but I
Hmm.
actually think we're headed there next, especially with these establishment with the outsides. Um, so anyway, I think that all those three things, right? So is the noise level reasonable? I think we've got a pretty decent experience base for that. Are they measuring it? They got to have the decibel reader there. And then I think the third is the enforcement, which is if we can have an automatic enforcement where we've got a limiter, I think that would be ideal. Um, Kind of leave it at that. I think that's probably going to be a bigger ask, but they should at least be setting a reasonable threshold and monitoring against it, so that if there is a complaint made, AppKit can go in.
Yeah, a lot of the establishments do have them, the decibel meters. I don't know about
Yes.
limiters. I've heard them mentioned before, though, in our conversation. So some people are using them, I think. Okay. Um, Alan, keep all that in mind, huh, as we go, and some more
Okay,
parameters we could put in the settlement agreement aside from doors and rooftop and stuff.
understood.
Okay. Happy to close the ABCR section if we're good. All
Yes.
righty.
Thank you.
Anything from community engagement?
Yep. Sorry, I was just on mute there. Very quick updates here. We talked about the projects in process. Farmers market outreach, still the eluding one. Probably I know Zavi's reaching out, who is our kind of spearheading the lead coordinator on that, trying to get some more leads on that. So we got a few leads. They kind of went away. She's getting more leads. We also talked to Common Good City Farm. They are in our ward or in our ANC commission. They do support some of the programs that the farmers market at 14th and U did. And so we realize that it's a little bit on the outside of most of the residents in the commission, but for the time being, we can at least funnel some residents over there. They do accept the EBT SNAP. They do accept the Fresh Farm funds that help amplify some of the dollars that residents receive from EBT SNAP, so they can have their dollars stretch a little bit farther. They do offer a pay what you can program, which was also something that the 14th and U um, farmers market did. So there are some benefits of having folks go over there. However, it's not accessible for a lot of the residents. So Zavi's kind of going back to the drawing board with a few folks on that side to come up with some other solutions or other things we can do, at least in the short term. Still kind of in a holding pattern on the Civil War, African American Civil War Museum on the grand reopening. I was just looking on the website 2 seconds ago. Still not updated, but I know there was some sort of desire for that. As I think I mentioned before, it'd be good um, to get a little bit more clarity on what we want to do. And so once we get a date, we'll work in the back end to come up with some proposals to provide the commission for review and some feedback. And hopefully we can do something once the grand reopening has happened. Also, in the continuation of developing the Block Party and Neighborhood event how-to playbook, that's on my plate. Going to make that a priority for February, so we can roll that out in March. Commission engagement and marketing. Al Wilkins had some really good thoughts on this of how can we describe ANC scope to the average person on the street. What does the ANC 1B do? Kind of your elevator message for commissioners, and also ways to round up a roster of volunteers to either help out with committees or also just if they don't have that much time maybe we keep them in the back pocket for select events out there. So someone's got a few hours, they'd like to, be at the Art All Night event table in September, build up that roster so that we have more people out in the field. Areas of focus for this year: support more block parties and neighborhood events, support major cultural events in the neighborhood and around the ward, community engagement, getting in front and various touch points with the residents of 1B, and then also increase kind of the day-to-day visibility within the commission area as well. And one idea that came up from Karen Gall was the idea of doing office hours, and I'm not quite sure how feasible that is from a commission standpoint, but she had mentioned like maybe an online office hour where the commissioners are available, 1 or 2 hours a month or whatever would be available. But again, I'm not quite sure if that's possible or if this is the right forum or the ANC 1B meeting would be the right forum.
I'll follow my sword slightly on that one. We did it one time last year. I did an open office hour. Somebody else Raisa joined me. I think it was just the two of us. And that's how we actually got Zavi involved in the community engagement committee, because she popped by and learned about it, which
Was
is,
that Spark?
yeah, exactly how it's
I
supposed to work.
came.
So,
I came.
oh my God, Matthew was there. I'm so sorry. Wow. Yes, we only did it once. We had hoped to do it like every other month or something. So, it would be a great thing to put back on our schedule, especially once we have a new outreach consultant and for the community engagement committee to be involved in, especially publicizing and bringing some people in. I do want to shout out really quickly that Al Wilkins is in the audience. Hello, Al. Thank you for joining us today. He is our applicant for community engagement chair for this new term. Mike, of course, stepped in when the chair needed someone to rescue it last year on an interim basis, ended up staying the entire term, which I appreciate very deeply. You have really teed up the committee for, I think, a productive term in 2026. So thank you, Mike. And I understand it's Mike's intention to remain on the committee and serve as vice chair along with Al if we approve Al next week. And Al is wonderful. He and I have had good conversations about where the committee is heading. So he's available, of course, to answer any questions you guys may have. Al, I don't know if you want to say anything now. You are by no means required to. You can put up your Zoom hand if you like. But all that transition seems to be going smoothly, which I appreciate.
Great. I just have one more thing is kind of going back to the very first bullet point that Chair has mentioned. What would be very helpful from the community engagement standpoint for all the commissioners is, if possible, we'd like at least a couple months lead time on events. I know that's not always possible, but if we're going to get out in the crowd and be at certain events, get the volunteers coordinated, get us coordinated, as much lead time as possible. I know sometimes that's not possible, but whatever we can do to get ahead of events will allow us to kind of build a better package to be presentable to the community.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. Actually, we did have a soft application come in for event funding, and I think it might be a good test case for us to work on with Al to determine eligibility and stuff. So maybe Mike and Al, we can put together a call in the next few days just to walk it through and then see how to handle, how to mesh it into the commission and the committee's meeting rhythm and figure out when we need to get an application moving. If that sounds good.
Would it be easier? I mean, I'm not quite sure the context of, but feel free to send that. And, if it's easier, we can take a look first, or if you'd like to be involved too, it's completely up to you. I read a little bit more about the OANC rules and stuff like that. And I know we also have the training with that Commissioner Lemon Strauss provided too.
Mm-hmm.
But
okay.
yeah. So whatever is easiest for you. I know you have a lot on your plate, so.
Okay. Thank you so. On to economic development.
Public toilets was one of our big topics of discussion. Councilmember Nadeau authorized funding for a thrown toilet at the intersection of 7th and T. It did create a fair amount of consternation, so we'll be looking for this group to provide some feedback as well as continued feedback from the community. My understanding from our communications with David Meny in the council member's office is that the legislation authorizes a throne to be placed within 500 feet of that specific intersection, which only leaves a handful of locations. They are currently working with, those would include, by the way, the Duke Ellington Plaza next to the sculpture of Duke Ellington, the newly commissioned park at 625 T Street, or the Metro Plaza with the north entrance of the Shaw Howard Metro Station. And so they are currently working with DPW to look at the space requirements and to come back with a couple of options. But we are going to make sure that we've got good community input on that. And I think there's a bit of a debate about whether it is still needed. But at the end of the day, the sense was there's enough activity there that requires some additional resources. And let's just put it in a thoughtful place where it can do the most good. The other topic of conversation that we spent some time on was on gentle density. The committee has reviewed gentle density now very, very briefly with Commissioner Barrio in October. We spent a lot of time on it in November, again, a lot of time in December, and then we spent a short amount of time on it in January. The commissioners are aware that that committee had framed up a series of requested and recommended edits to Commissioner Barrio's resolution. They were frustrated when we looked at the resolution that was presented in January at our January commission meeting, that few to none of the recommended changes made at the December meeting were incorporated into that draft. Commissioner Barrio was generous with his time. We took some time on Thursday, the hour before the committee meeting. We took some additional time on Monday evening. And what I shared with the committee on Thursday was that we were not making a lot of progress in incorporating the changes that had been recommended. The committee voted to submit a secondary resolution on gentle density. It incorporates many, if not all, of the recommendations that had been conveyed to Commissioner Barrio. And the request of the committee was that the commission itself would have the opportunity to make a decision about which of those recommendations it wanted to adopt. I want to clarify that this is in no way intended to be contentious. I had shared with Commissioner Barrio when we met on Monday that part of the process is that he fully has the right as the author and owner of the resolution to choose the input that he would like and to reject the input that he doesn't. And so, he certainly has that right to do that. The committee felt strongly that they wanted to make sure that the perspective of community members, committee members, were taken into account. The work of the zoning planning group where feedback was shared is also incorporated into the draft. And so we'll be putting that forward for consideration. Just to clarify a little bit of process, Commissioner Barrio's resolution will be first on the agenda. It is, old business, whereas the one that's coming from the committee is new business. And so we will have an opportunity first to be able to discuss and evaluate and vote on Commissioner Barrio's resolution as it stands. And hopefully the commission will have an opportunity to review the draft and make a decision about what direction they would want to go, whether they want to recommend the incorporation of any of that additional language into Commissioner Barrio's resolution, or whether they would want to consider that resolution in its entirety as an alternative. So that's the process that we'll be going through, and I appreciate kind of the potential additional layer that this definitely represents, but also wanted to make sure that with a topic of this import, with a topic that has the potential for such a kind of a wide-ranging impact, that the options were put on the table. So that's the second item that we discussed and wanted to give a heads up as how that would be fitting into our February meeting.
Thank you very much for that. Commissioner Kenzek with a comment.
I'm sorry about that. I have so many apps open. Yeah, has Commissioner Barrio, has he accepted any edits at all today?
So I have made a number of changes based off the feedback I've received. I did not use the exact language of the resolution that Commissioner Fay, like the draft that he had sent me before, because there were some, I think, some real disagreements over the approach that should be taken to add new family-sized housing to DC. But I will say that in the latest version that I sent out to everyone, I've included different citations to address some of the concerns the committee brought up. I've included additional whereas clauses identifying some of the problems DC faces with ADUs and things like that. I added a provision in the resolved clauses, so not just the whereas, asking the comprehensive plan to look at ways that the city can incentivize uh, income restricted units by providing property tax abatements. So I think that's an interesting idea that could be looked at, and I know that that was a topic that had been brought up before. So, and I also revised language for one key resolved clause that basically says that the Office of Planning should, create rules around what can be built, and that, what we're advocating for is not that there will be no rules, but that, the Office of Planning should take this core idea of allowing a broader diversity of gentle density structure types like duplexes, triplexes, row homes, sixplexes, that those should be allowed to exist, but that the Office of Planning should align floor area ratios, height and mass restrictions, and other regulations in order to, fit into neighborhood contexts while ensuring that this housing is actually able to be built. So I think it's about striking a balance, but I do think we are advocating, and I've included language based on the feedback to ensure that, the Office of Planning will implement this in a responsible and reasonable way is the goal.
Commissioner Holden.
Commissioner Fay, you haven't sent the new resolution around yet, have you?
So I sent a draft around to the full commission. It was directed to Commissioner Barrio, but I sent it to the whole commission, not this Saturday, but the Saturday before that.
Okay.
There were a couple of minor revisions that the committee voted on at the meeting on Thursday. Part of what we had proposed, part of what I had proposed on that Saturday email to Francois was I left out a handful of things that we knew that he was probably not going to be excited about. So we tweaked a couple of things to change it. I will be sending around the updated draft to everybody tomorrow, and it will be included along with Commissioner Barrio's draft in the agenda packet. But Commissioner Holden, it's very similar to what you'll see in your email from about a week and a half ago. The whereas clauses are the other thing that's more changed. So we had a different approach to the whereas clauses. The narrative is similar, but the specific references are different.
Okay, yeah, I found it. It was just you sent it during my trip, so
Yeah. No, I think that's what happened. And then look, I want to acknowledge, right, what Commissioner Barrio said, because again, I have no interest in I guess funny business is the word that comes to mind. Commissioner Barrio has been very thoughtful about outlining the things that are really important in his mind to gentle density. Several of those things raised real concerns with the Economic Development Committee. And so we proposed them back. And so part of what Commissioner Barrio said is some of the things that you're proposing, I just don't agree with. And since those were some of the same things that folks were very concerned about, we said, okay, right, let's put both forms together. I would encourage, really going to encourage that the commissioners take some time to read through both of them. Commissioner Barrio said, reach out to him. I'm going to say the same thing. Reach out if you got any questions. I'm going to send a cover letter that explains kind of the areas of concern and how we sought to address them. And then I welcome any amendments or suggestions. I think Commissioner Barrio, and I'll try to profile them side by side. And Francois, if I get them wrong, right, if I'm misstating anything, you should correct me. You should correct me. But there are kind of like three big key tenets of what Francois was proposing. And there are the similar three key tenets that the Economic Development Committee is proposing. And they are different from one another. They're kind of on the same topic, but a different approach. And so this is going to be a choice, right? It's not a competition. It's a choice where folks say, this resonates with me, this resonates with me, and we'll have a chance to kind of think about it. But again, Francois' resolution is going to be first on the agenda. And our goal is to, put this in front of the full commission for consideration, so that we are able to have a conversation about the different ideas and options that have been brought forward by the committee and by the community.
Yeah, I mean, I think that um, I think that captures it well. I haven't, I've looked at the version that you sent earlier, Matt, and it sounds like this new version will be similar.
Yeah.
I do think there are some key differences that really impact the meaning and the import of the resolution and the effect that if it were to be included in the comprehensive plan, like what it would produce and what it would not produce in terms of new housing. And so,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to reading through it again and discussing it at the full commission meeting. And
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for
There's,
engaging with for all these weeks on it. And it's
yeah,
it is great
there's,
to see so many people talking about housing. So
yeah,
it'll
it
be a
is.
lively discussion, but I think it'll be
Yeah.
worthwhile.
There should be no wool like over anyone's eyes, right? Like it's going to be super clear the
Mhm.
differences, right? So I don't think there's any sleight of hand. You're going to read them and you're going to say, "Got it. I see what Francois wrote. Got it. I see what the Economic Development Committee is putting out there." There's not like there's a kind of anything that's hidden. You're going to see the differences, but the committee really wanted to make sure that the commission, having spent so much time on this, could look at those differences and make a decision. And maybe the commission actually looks at both of them and says, here's a different common ground that we would propose striking. So that's the goal here, is to take this forward. And I also want to clarify, both personally, but also in whatever professional context we all operate as commissioners. I'd love to see this thing kind of put to rest in February, because we've got other things we need to be focusing on, and that we want to be putting our energy and attention toward.
To say nothing of the fact that the comp plan task force will spin up, and these things will all live side by side in
Also
several
true.
ongoing parallel conversations for several months. Okay, let's move on to Public Safety Committee.
I just muted myself. Public Safety Committee, not a ton to report. I will say that we are working on a partnership with the Department of Parks and Recreation and a local martial arts academy called Beta Academy. Um, the DPR, interestingly, Beta Academy has submitted a partnership application, and DPR got back to us and said that they think the best course of action would be for the ANC to apply for a permit. I'm still figuring out what that would look like, so I don't think we're going to vote on anything at our next meeting, but I'm putting that on folks' radar because I do think it would be a good thing for us to at least set up a pilot program with DPR where basically Beta Academy would provide martial arts programming for youth. One of the big things that the Public Safety Committee has focused on is how do we go beyond, enforcement measures such as the juvenile curfew to keep youth safe, keep them engaged, support them. Um, and I think that, providing more youth programming is a key part of that. There's also oversight hearings coming up for a lot of agencies at the end of January and in February. And we're hoping to weigh in, I think, at least just, I think it will be committee members individually on their own behalf, but we're working together on potential testimony and talking points, especially for DPR, because I think it would be great to get spaces like Banneker really activated to engage youth, because right now, those spaces are in many ways geared towards adult classes. They're closed in the evenings. It's not very accessible to youth, it would seem. We're still gathering more information, so I don't want to make any sweeping claims, but it seems like, the city should make this a real priority and, put funding as well as intention behind activating our recreation centers.
Okay, very good. Please, thank you very much for having that complimentary discussion to the youth curfew discussions the committee has been having.
Yep.
Much appreciated. A Transportation, Parks, and Public Space Committee, please.
Yeah, so we have two resolutions and two letters, I guess, although I'll start with the easiest one. We had a presentation from the Rock and Roll Marathon at last meeting. where basically they just said when the marathon's going to happen and the impacts on the ANC, it doesn't really directly impact us, but it's like secondary or tertiary effects from like road closures and no parking and stuff. But the route doesn't actually run through 1B. And they just asked us for like a letter of support for the marathon to happen.
We have a letter of support from last year because
Okay, cool.
last year it was they came directly to the ANC because we were just organizing. I forgot all about that. I will send it to you, and then that way, hopefully, you don't have to draft a new one.
That's exactly what we need, and it's probably been addressed to the people that we needed to. The woman from the marathon was going to give me who she wanted it to go to, like HSEMA or something, the Homeland Security and Emergency Management Task Force. But she hadn't sent me that yet. So if you send me that, then we can just repurpose that. So that's great. That's the easiest one. Next, there is a minor notice of intent that we discussed to remove about 2 parking spots at Clifton and 14th on the northwest corner. So just pulling back that parking. It seems that they identified a sightline issue there for the crosswalk. So they're pulling back the parking. It does seem to just get it into DDOT standards, according to a brochure that was sent to us, for no parking zones by traffic lights. And those intersections or crosswalks at traffic lights is 40 feet, but they currently have it marked less than 40 feet. So it's kind of just getting it into compliance. The committee had some questions about like, well, if they actually get into this 40-foot compliance everywhere, like, is that taking a lot of parking away throughout the whole neighborhood? So our comments are going to kind of be focused on that. It's like, what are they just doing signage and markings, or are they actually going to do like flex posts or something to prevent people from parking there, or will it just be signed? And then also kind of like asking for potentially some numbers on if they were to like how many intersections do they need to do this at, and what the parking impact would be. My guess is they don't know the answer to that, but we're going to ask. So those are the letters.
So real quick to clarify that it is Clifton.
Is it Chapin?
In my mind, it's been Chapin this whole time, but now I can't be sure.
No, it's Chapin then.
There's two streets. 2 names streets. It's confusing.
Wait, are they removing parking at 2 intersections? No, I think it's just 1.
It's just 1, but I think it's because there's 2 C's is what Stephen means.
Yes, our neighborhood falls out of the alphabetic pattern for some reason. It makes me nuts all the time.
I think it's Chapin.
Okay, because that was flagged by a constituent of mine. I can't remember if I did like a TSI or anything on it. If you happen to have an interaction with them and you want to ask them how they came to find out about this thing, I would actually be interested to know if that's how it arose.
Yeah, I think it came out of Vision Zero potentially. So it could be from the TSI process. It didn't say in the NOI itself. The NOI just kind of tells you where the spaces are that they're adjusting. But yeah, if anyone has any more comments on that, we could ask in the comments officially, how did you identify this location? Then they have to respond.
Do it, would you? Should I?
We can add it. That's
Please.
fine. That's like a fine thing.
I'm deeply curious.
We're kind of treating this one as just more like some comments of interest on the NOI as opposed to like a full letter of support.
Okay.
That's how everyone felt. So
if you want to throw in any gratuitous references to the fact that this whole stretch of 14th Street needs to be redesigned, that's cool too.
Well, speaking of
awesome.
that, the next one up is our resolution for comments to the strategic bikeways plan. And it might be useful if I pull that up because we have a lot of comments, but I'm hoping that everyone feels good about them. And I will pull it up in just a second. But basically what we did, I kind of brainstormed some comments and shared them with the group to get it kicked off. And then the committee added a bunch through the conversation. that we had. So the bikeways plan is it's kind of like the comprehensive plan for the bike network, and how the city is going to prioritize maintenance and maintenance of existing facilities and then building new facilities over the next like 10 years. Okay, is my screen sharing? Maybe.
It's
Cool.
thinking. Yes.
So
give us some Zoom, my friend.
you're asking too much. Okay, I can the whereas clauses just like stupid simple. It's just this is happening and they're accepting comment and this is what we think. So the first resolve clause is just that the ANC supports a plan that expands the bicycle network, closes existing gaps, builds new infrastructure, encourages more people to consider cycling, and creates a safer transportation network for all users, all road users, kind of as like the big picture framework. And then we very quickly get into like specific asks. This one's a little more action oriented maybe than some other ones. So this kind of builds off like when they've been doing public comment, just generally, they put out a map and we're like, pin your location for like where you would like some sort of bike related maintenance, infrastructure, upgrade, new facility, right? So I kind of treated the resolution as that too, right? So we've like listed either streets or intersections and then kind of described what the committee thought would be good there. So for like 14th as the example, and they're not really in alphabetical. I could like change the order if we think like alphabetical or something makes more sense. It's just kind of like a random order. But for 14th, asked for conversion of the existing painted lanes to protected bike lanes from Columbia Heights through ANC 1B, continue downtown, and then additional safety and operational enhancements. And this was committee member comment, such as adding more pickup drop-off areas to deconflict vehicles and bike traffic along the corridor. If we have additional ideas for 14th Street, we could add them. It is bike focused, so we don't necessarily want to talk about too many non-bike things, but open to suggestions. For 11th in Vermont, I just kind of reiterated, since we recently have resolutions, just reiterated those. For 15th Street, because this is the like flagship bike lane in the city, basically, going from Columbia Heights all the way to Virginia, if you continue across the 14th Street Bridge. The enhancements that we were asking for aren't in ANC 1B, but they're like part of this route that goes through the neighborhood. So one is like making better connections in the northern part in Columbia Heights, because it kind of just ends and you're like, well, where do I go? What do I do? You can't get to Mount Pleasant easy. You can't continue on to other parts of Columbia Heights very easy from there. So asking for them to prioritize that. And then also, if you ever ride south by the White House is a mess. You can't ride through Lafayette Park anymore. So there's a gap that is created in the bike lane. So just asking them to cut out the White House. Don't even worry about Lafayette Park. Build something around it. That's what that one is. For T Street and 6th Street in Florida, there's a T Street painted bike lane right now, but then it just kind of ends at the Howard Theater, like right in front of there. And then if you continue, you'd be spit out onto Florida. It's dangerous in that part of Florida. LaDroit Park has some really good contraflow bike lanes and other bike facilities that already exist, like just on the other side of Florida. So asking them to kind of like see if there's issues at that intersection that they could correct or enhance to make it easier to get in and out of LaDroit Park to the rest of the neighborhood there. New Hampshire Avenue. This wasn't actually ANC 2B asked for this. So I just added it to us too, since it continues into us, but they came up with the idea to convert the existing painted bike lanes on New Hampshire Avenue to protected bike lanes. Or a protected cycle track. So I added this in here saying to continue that, through us to the park. This one's a little less specific, but we have a lot of good north-south routes. We have less good east-west. So just asking DDOT to kind of see if there are ways to prioritize good east-west connections. The intersection kind of north of the Whole Foods, you have a good protected bike lane, but then it kind of just ends when you go to Sherman at like Berry Place. So asking them to think about that intersection and how that could be enhanced. So the transition is better, or continue protected bike lanes, something like that. The intersection right by the 930 Club, Florida North V, is really busy from a lot of pedestrians and cyclists and cars. So just thinking about, this was specifically considering like signal timing and maybe a bike light, but not necessarily, but just like if there's anything they can do at that intersection. And then finally, consider options to continue the Florida Avenue Northeast protected bike lane, which exists and is good, west towards 1B up to E Street, if possible. So that's what we came up with at the committee. Francois, I see your hand. But if we have other ideas now, great. If we have ideas for next week or before next week, please share them with me and I'd be happy to add them. Francois.
Hey, yeah, my only question was about the east-west route. It sounds like we're kind of intentionally leaving that vague right now. Don't want to take a stance on where that should be, but I am curious if the committee has thought about that and whether we want to say we want a two-way bike lane, we want multiple one-way bike lanes. Maybe that's something to consider for like a future resolution because I do think that's one of the most critical. Like when you ask people that always comes up as their sort of number one ask when it comes to bike lanes in ANC 1B.
So the if you're paying attention, which I believe that you are, to kind of bike discourse in DC,
Trying.
there's a push for east-west protected bike lanes on either Q or R or both. And since both of those are south of us and don't like really intersect with the ANC,
Sure.
I think we kept it vague because I tried to only weigh in on stuff if it like directly went through us or had the potential to go through us. So like the 15th, it's outside of 1B, but it's like a main corridor that goes through us.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like Q and R, I don't want to put Q and R in here because it's kind of outside of us, even though anyone who lives in 1B can ride on any facility. So we could weigh in on anything, really.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're going for an east-west connection, regardless of whether it's in ANC.
Right. And so, yeah, I don't want to, yeah. So I was like, if they find one that goes through directly through 1B, it would be good, do that. But like, we would support east-west connections generally also, even if they're not in us. It's kind of what I was kind of getting at. Like, if you do them in other parts of the city that aren't directly in 1B, 1B supports that. But if you did put them in us too, great. So I'm kind of agnostic on specific routes.
Okay.
If you have a great idea for a specific route, we can add it. There's a big resolution, so we don't have to.
You know, I have not done enough research. All I would say is that I am curious what the research shows on whether two-way bike lanes versus one-way bike lanes are safer or more used or more accessible. It seems to me that having a two-way lane is better because you just have more overall space that's designated for bikes that's together rather than sort of trapping a bike in a narrow lane, which can be dangerous or difficult to maneuver on obstacles. But that's just my anecdotal thoughts. So maybe it would be interesting for the committee to work on some sort of resolution asking DDOT to focus more on certain types of bike lanes and less on other types of bike lanes. But that's something down the road.
That is like for the New Hampshire one, that is kind of why I said protected bike lanes or a protected cycle track, because I think depending on the road geometry, there's certain times where a two-way cycle track makes total sense. 15th Street is so wide that adding that two-way cycle track there, and that was one of the first ones in the city, makes sense, right? Because they had excess lane capacity, and
there's still so many lanes going one way.
There's still excess lane capacity on 15th. You could make the cycle track bigger. They don't need all those lanes on 15th for the cars, but then on so would you like totally redo New Hampshire to do a cycle track, or would just one way lanes that are protected work better for that road and that geometry? So that's why I was kind of keeping it like higher picture on some things. Of course, there's specific asks also, but just because
let's be mindful of time if we could.
Different roads, different things. Hands. Commissioner Ray.
Yep.
Yeah, you were hitting on some of this, but Francois was throwing out kind of proposals. Where do we bring into this DDOT expertise? Are they coming and presenting to you on, here's what we are recommending, here's what we think is the best, and you're giving feedback on that, or are we creating recommendations de novo? How does that balance back and forth work?
So this is a big public call from DDOT for feedback. So they're looking at a high level plan, like 10 years or whatever, for what the community wants for priorities. And so this is not presentations from DDOT and weighing in on design review or engineering plans from them. This is where we think
Bigger picture
bigger
feedback.
picture,
Okay.
bigger picture feedback. Where we DDOT typically would come present would be when they actually are planning to have a real project like we did with 11th in Vermont. And they actually came and present. And then when we've done feedback with them, it's been based off of their actual plans.
Okay.
Yep. That's kind of the difference.
On that specific point, sorry, I would just maybe recommend inserting a reference to our recent resolution on 11th Street in your bullet on 11th Street, just to.
There.
Is it there? I'm sorry. Okay, cool. Thank
With
you.
the date and the resolution number.
Oh, I missed it. Sorry.
Okay.
I was just wondering if there's like so much there. Is there a way we could have like three different like subheadings or like groupings of these items? Do like signals and like intersection improvements, like corridor projects, and then like things the ANC is like passed a resolution on that like we haven't heard back from yet or something like that, just to like break it down to like some groups so it's like a little bit like I don't know, easier to
Yeah.
grasp or something.
I think that's a good idea and that makes sense. I think yeah, the ones that we do like existing projects, future corridor projects, and future intersection or something like that. That's kind of the three. That's kind of how it breaks down right now.
Yeah, it seemed like a theme, but there was like Florida, there's like Florida. I was like, I feel like other people will not with like this like subheadings. It might be easier to kind of follow where they are.
That's a good idea. If there's no more bike, the last one real quick. Well, I don't know. We'll see. Is the U Street late night parking resolution. So that one is about requesting that DDOT turn paid parking spots in the U Street corridor directly on U Street. We extended it to Florida for reasons that I can explain, but directly on U Street, not on any of the neighboring streets, to be 5-minute pickup drop-off spots after 10:30 on Friday and Saturday until 6 a.m. the next day. To prevent illegal parking and illegal activities around the illegal parking, but also to help with congestion and remove double parking and make rideshare and food delivery easier. And then also with the curbside, it's not curbside, but the offset bus lanes coming in, making it so at late night hours, buses wouldn't have to worry about these issues impacting operations. There had been some talk about limiting it to just a couple blocks on U Street, maybe like 13th, the 1100, 1200, 1300 block, or the 900 block, occasional blocks here or there. We decided to keep it contiguous all the way to U Street, 14th and U. And then this was kind of from Karen Gall, but she was kind of thinking of it from a public safety perspective and just kind of like, well, where's the corridor of issues? And she identified like 6th in Florida as the beginning of that. We did discuss how there is no parking on the 600 block or the 600 block. So if it would make more sense to start at the 700 block instead, because that's where parking starts, we could do that. But it was she was thinking of it kind of as like, this is the corridor in total. So that's why we started it there.
Got it.
Yeah. Any questions on that?
Did you get, Matthew, did you get the notes from David Menny? I know he knew you were out, so I wasn't sure if he just sent them to Miguel and myself. I'll forward them to you.
Yeah, I don't think so. And
They were
if we
minor tweaks in language that he was recommending.
did, okay.
So I'll just push this over to you right now.
Yeah, it's only three resolve clause. One is just the hours, um, time restriction, and the days and the corridor length, and then just asking that the signs are legible and make sense, and then the DPW and MPD coordinate to enforce this.
And it's probably worth highlighting that I think it was probably 21, the commission requested the same exact thing. It was kind of sort of implemented. It was not really enforced. And the mayor's office of nightlife ultimately wrote their performance assessment in like 2 lines of an email saying, we don't really think anyone wants this anymore. So we've heard a lot of feedback from the business community saying we'd like to give this another shot and do a genuine implementation, and have the commission work with us to stay on top of it. So it's not a new idea as much as Commissioner Holden's bringing new life to it. And so I think there's a past precedent here, which I think is good to know.
There was that issue with Monk not having disaggregated data to study how that pilot went. I don't know if we wanted to ask for some type of disaggregated, specific study on this as it's rolled out, just so they can't, don't run into the same problem again of saying, we're not tracking exactly how many citations are issued or whatever in that specific zone.
I'm agnostic.
Because that monk exchange, when they said nobody really wanted this, they said like, oh, we don't even have stats on how often this was enforced or whatever, because we just get a readout like ward wide and we don't know how many were on U Street, so shrug. But I guess if we wanted to really keep an eye on this time, although we're not pitching this as a pilot this time around.
Yeah, no, I don't consider it a pilot. I consider it a change in curbside policy. So.
Yeah.
Is there talk to
Okay.
coordinate with like the MPD about this? Because like they were like closing off the streets. I don't even know if they still are, but
They're not closing the street anymore. Unless it's like homecoming or big events. They would still potentially sometimes close the street, but I don't think they're doing those like it was like random summer nights or like often
Yeah.
a couple summers ago they were often closing the street. But I don't think they're doing that anymore.
Now it's just Francois out there like with a broom running after cars.
Please tell me
Which-
you're at least wearing a reflective vest, Francois.
No, I'm
On
wearing
roller
all
skates.
black.
But yeah, I shared both resolutions. So if anyone has additional stuff before next week, just let me know.
Thank you. If nothing further, we'll move on to ZPD. Christian is not here today. He sent me a little update. We don't have any business for the ANC that's coming up for next month's meeting, which is great. He did include this note, which I'll just float out here, but I think I have to take away and work on with him. In terms of things for next on our agenda, I'd like to get a sense of whether we want to follow up with DOB and whether that would be at the ZPD level or at the ANC level. This is in reference to the B Street building collapse. I don't know that anyone here is that plugged in to the collapse. I probably need to circle back with Aaron and Christian if anyone has strong feelings. We did send some questions to DOB. They wrote back to them. There was some back and forth. ZPD asked if they would come by, I don't know, November-ish, and they declined, but in kind of a nice way this time. So there's some thought that we might want to ask them to come at the commission level to use the force of the ANC's invitation. But I think we need to clarify a bit more what the actual asks are, what we're expecting. Any input floating around here?
I would ping Aaron, and also I'll reach out to Krishna.
And Krishna, of course. I think he's away still for another week. So
Yes.
Yeah. Great. That's good. I need to go back to one more item. Sorry, we didn't take care of before. And this is a ZPD plus community engagement question. And Mike Hewling can speak to this a little bit too. But they brought to my attention that Karen Gall at community engagement moved that the Community Engagement Committee offer a bereavement instrument for condolences to any particular tragic situations of extreme significance within the commission area. Which, Mike, if you want to talk a little bit about this, please feel free to come off mute. This is phrased as sort of a policy going forward that if there are tragedies in the commission area, the Community Engagement Committee take it upon itself to, I guess, liaise with victims or survivors, families, whatever. Do I have that right?
Yeah, it was kind of purposely left a little bit open ended for the commission to discuss. The main root of this was committee member Karen Gall. She presented it as a way for the commission to acknowledge a tragedy that happened in the commission uh, of certain significance. Obviously, there's tragic events that happen, quite frequently. But this one was, I think, that was a little bit above and beyond in terms of the building collapsing on the contractor, and so doing something to acknowledge or condolences or commemorative on those events. She thought it would be a good idea for and as a committee, we agreed for the commission to kind of think about ways to acknowledge that. So it was left purposely open ended a little bit for the commission to think about. And happy to go back to Karen and to the committee to see if there was anything in specific that they'd want to talk about, or if that's something more for the commission to think about, if there is a way to do that.
My instinct here is to think about this a little bit more. I think we could I have a little brewing list of SOP updates that people have been asking for over the course of the whole last year. I think we could turn this into some language to add to the Community Engagement Committee's SOPs, and not only about tragedies, but reaching out to people, to constituents more proactively for navigation in what's it called? There's like a victims assistance fund that DC has, right? If you're the victim of certain types of crime, which I think is not really well known. So I think maybe instead of moving or handling this right now at the commission level, could we think about how to write that into some language that's a little bit broader, but encapsulates this notion of the CE committee having the responsibility to proactively reach out and offer assistance navigating those resources when there's significant crime or disaster or whatever, I think would be nice.
We will do whatever the commission thinks is appropriate, and I think moving it to the SOP amendment process might make the most sense.
Yeah, otherwise it's only as good as long as we're around to remember that we passed it. So it's good to put it in the actual document. I'll note that Karen Gall did also ask for some specific answers about the way that we have reached out to the family of the construction worker killed on V Street. And that has been a bit sporadic. So I'm going to take that away as something to work on between now and next week. Krishna was a bit involved. Our community member, Dave Maloff, was also involved in some contact with the family. But I think we should circle back now that it's been a year and they've been in touch recently. So I'll get an update on that stuff and get that to Karen. And I'm glad she's asking these questions. I believe that's it for committee business. Francois, you asked for 2 minutes on the mural project on 9.5 Street. I offered you one. You may now have it.
You did.
Oh no, you're muted. 45
You're wasting your
seconds.
minute.
40 seconds.
Okay, let me see if I can try to pull this thing up on my screen really quick, okay? I've got like a million tabs open, like everybody. One sec. All right. Share. Okay. Can folks, oh my God, there's so many things. Can folks see the mural project?
Yes.
Canva. Okay, great. Well, as some of you might know, I've been working with a neighbor named Suda on 9.5 Street on a mural project. 9.5 Street is a cute little street that's right in the heart of our commission that lets out onto U Street. And our idea is, in a nutshell, to try to bring murals to the U Street area, especially 9.5 Street, and to those spaces. We sort of want to model it on Blagden Alley, though there aren't as many businesses, but really create a sort of secret, not so secret spot that honors the rich history of jazz and change and U Street. So we've created this Canva that is still very much a work in progress, but it sort of outlines our vision, the location, the benefits of murals, the economic benefits, the different the timeline we're on right now, which I can speak to very briefly, the cost and things like that. And so our idea is that we want to use this. Oh, there's Stephen reading out names at the African American Civil War Memorial. Our idea is that we want to use this brochure to go to various institutions and buildings in the area like Grimkey, which we're going to have a meeting with, to discuss whether there's an opportunity to collaborate and use their wall space for a mural. And the way that the ANC can help is that, not only am I working with Suda to make this project happen, but also at some point in the next month or two, we will probably be requesting some sort of ANC sponsorship to provide funds to help cover the costs of the mural. Still working that out with OANC, but it looks like we can cover the costs of supplies, but maybe not pay the artist. As with these rules, it's very Byzantine and makes no sense. But we're going to navigate it, and we're also hoping to fundraise from the community as well as hopefully secure some contributions from buildings in the area like Grimkey for these murals. So I just wanted to show folks that we're making progress. We have this document that we're working on, which I think is looking really good, and that we will be asking the commission and working with the commission more in the future as we really start to build this out and make it more of a real thing. As I see Mike has a question.
Yeah, just very quickly, and I don't know where it's appropriate, but when you contact OANC for these questions, if you could copy for the time being myself and Al once he's if he's the new chair of CE committee, and then
Okay.
also Lemon Strauss. Otherwise, we're probably going to have to reinvent the wheel and ask the same question. So,
Okay.
if you don't mind, that'd be great.
Yeah, of course. I had sent that email a while ago, so there haven't been, it's no recent emails, but let me just make a note for myself that I should here, I'll stop the share. I'll forward you what they said previously, and when I reach out again, I will copy you and the new chair if you wouldn't mind. Their email probably exists in my inbox, but if you wouldn't mind just shooting me an email with their email, that'd be great. And we would also love to
Nope.
probably speak to the community engagement committee at some point as we build this out and secure more wall space permissions.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you very much. I think just having Al, myself, and possibly Commissioner Lemon Strauss involved will probably make it a little bit easier because this is a little bit different than what we normally do, in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Sorry, I guess Al, do I have Al's contact information?
We can send it over.
Okay, sounds good.
You
All
do
right.
because you received his chair application in PDF.
Okay, well, I will search for that somewhere.
Please memorialize what you learned very well because there's another mural request coming down the pike. So,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I haven't heard about that. That's great.
Yeah, well, it's a secret. Thank you very much. I love this. And thank you for blazing this trail so we can follow it more easily with the next one. If no other questions, we can move on to consultants' report.
I have nothing.
We can go home?
Best update tonight.
I'm going to
Thank
Ivy
you, guys.
County, but
Oh, man. All right, have fun. Thank you all. See you next week. If you haven't sent in minutes or materials, supporting materials, please do it tonight because Matt and I are meeting at 10 a.m. to finalize. 10 a.m. this time for the first time in history, not 11:32 p.m.
I know.
Hasta luego, commissioners.
Thank you. Bye.
everyone.
Be
Bye.
safe.